Now, if shiny new smartwatches really batters your haddock, well, it's pretty much been Christmas for you lately because we've had tons of the buggers. 2 fresh new Samsung Galaxy Watch 4s, got the Fossil Gen 6, and now we've got the fresh new Mobvoi Ticwatch Pro 3 Ultra GPS. Not the catchiest of names, but hopefully a very good Wear OS watch. It's a proper premium smartwatch through and through, fully featured, a little bit more expensive than that Samsung Galaxy Watch 4, the standard edition, cheaper than the classic though, and about the same as that Fossil Gen 6, as it costs you 290 quid here in the UK. But enough jabber, let's whip the Ticwatch Pro 3 Ultra GPS on out of the box, get it all set up and take you on a full-on tour of the hardware and the software. And for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do plug subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! So first up, what do we actually get in the box besides the Ticwatch? Well, you've got a proprietary USB charging cable, product safety information, and some silica gel, and that's basically it. Nice and easy. So now let's check out the Ticwatch Pro 3 Ultra GPS. Now this very much looks like your typical Mobvoi smartwatch. It's quite a chunky monkey, as you can see there, though not horrifically so, certainly not quite as bad as some of the earlier models. 41 grams, it's got a decent heft, but again, nothing too horrific. The actual case itself is constructed from stainless steel as well as some nylon fiber. And unfortunately, the Ticwatch Pro 3 Ultra GPS does only come in this one colour, black, not particularly exciting, although it is a standard 22mm strap, so you can at least swap those out and jazz them up with all kinds of different colourful, vibrant efforts. The Ticwatch Pro 3 Ultra GPS comes with a fluoro rubber strap as standard, as you can see there. Not particularly exciting, but should prove nice and comfortable to wear, especially if you're exercising and getting your sweat on, all of that. Otherwise, as I say, you can quickly and easily rip these buggers out, get a new one on there, bit of leather action if you're about to hit the town, a stainless steel bracelet, whatever you fancy. And I have to say that sometimes these straps can be a real bugger to get on and off, can be really, really fiddly indeed, especially if you chew your fingernails like I do, but these ones are actually surprisingly easy to get to grips with. As usual with Ticwatches, you've got a pair of physical buttons you can use to interact with Wear OS, can be used as shortcuts as well, and you've also got some time markings around that bezel, and that bezel does seem to be reasonably skinny as well, certainly skinnier than on the Samsung Galaxy Watch 4. Sadly no rotating bezel action though, as you got on the likes of the Samsung Galaxy Watch 4 Classic. And if you want a smartwatch that's durable, well, the Ticwatch Pro 3 Ultra GPS certainly ticks a lot of those boxes. You've got Gorilla Glass coating that display to hopefully prevent any kind of scratching. It's IP68 water and dust resistant, so you can do a good bit of swim tracking with this thing, rock it in the bath, the shower, whatever you want. And the Ticwatch has also been put through a bit of military standard 810G testing, so it's not too bothered by extreme temperatures, humidity, shock impact, that kind of thing. Now, to get started with the Ticwatch, what you'll need to do is install Wear OS by Google Smartwatch. Then let's start the setup, and then with your watch turned on, just got to scan for it, and there we go. Then as usual, just got to follow the instructions to get your Google account copied across to the Ticwatch and get it all set up. And that's it all done. The setup literally takes about 3 minutes or something, nice and simple and straightforward. And via the Wear OS app here on your smartwatch, you can fully set up everything to do with your Ticwatch, including changing the watch face. You can change up the tiles that appear. You've got quite a few available to begin with. That will of course increase. These are essentially widgets basically. So once you install more apps on your Ticwatch, then you'll get further tiles to play around with. The Ticwatch can of course notify you when anything buzzes through on your smartphone. You can see exactly which apps are allowed to notify you on the Ticwatch. And you've got various other settings you can play around with, including the ability to wake the Ticwatch up just by basically raising your wrist. And also there's an always on screen option, although you won't actually need that thanks to the Ticwatch Pro 3 Ultra GPS's dual screen setup. So it's a 1.4 inch screen, and the Ticwatch Pro 3 Ultra GPS uses that same dual layer setup as previous Ticwatches as well. You've got a basic FSTN screen which basically sits on top of your standard AMOLED display. Now the idea behind this dual display setup is pretty simple and straightforward, but also actually genius, because obviously a lot of the time you'll be glancing at your watch just to check what the actual time is, or maybe see your steps count. And that's the kind of information that can be happily displayed on a very basic screen like the FSTN effort right here. You do actually have a bit of backlighting on the go as well, which activates when you raise your wrist like so. So you can actually see it outdoors as well, although you might have to squint a bit if it's a particularly sunny day. Don't think we'll have to worry about that here in Byyyeeee for a while. On the other hand though, if you happen to get a buzz on your wrist, you want to check what your notification is, or you want to do some proper fitness tracking or anything that requires the smart functionality, just tap that button, or you can also tap the screen itself, and that wakes up the AMOLED panel, which then becomes fully visible, as you can see there. So the idea is that you're not turning on that AMOLED screen every time you just want to check the time or do something basic, and that basically helps to conserve the battery life. So Mobvoi reckons you'll get around 3 days of full-on use for a single charge with the Ticwatch Pro 3 Ultra GPS, which as far as smartwatches go, pretty damn good. It means you can go away for a weekend without having to worry about packing the charger or anything. Like the Samsung Galaxy Watch 4 and that new Fossil, they tend to only last about sort of 24 hours between charges, so definitely to get anything longer than that is a bonus. And that AMOLED display certainly seems just as punchy and just as crisp as any of its smartphone rivals. It's 454 by 454 pixel resolution, given 326 pixels per inch. And the brightness of that AMOLED panel seems absolutely fine. You can actually tweak it if you go into the display settings as well, otherwise just leave it on full auto, but that should prove all right even when using outdoors. And it's a good old size of screen, nice wide viewing angles as well, so no issues with visibility. And yes, of course, it is a Wear OS smartwatch, but sadly Wear OS version 2 still, you don't get the latest, freshest Wear OS version 3 as found on those Samsung Galaxy watches just yet. Apparently Google has still been quite cagey about sharing the version 3 with other manufacturers right now, so not really sure when it'll get that update, but probably won't be until 2022, I'd imagine. Yeah, if you've used a Wear OS smartwatch before, the setup is of course very, very familiar indeed, so you can long press on that main watch face to change it up to anything else that you've got installed on here. You've got quite a few different analog and digital ones that you can choose from, or with different kinds of information displayed there on the main watch face. There's quite a few others that you can add direct through the smartwatch as well. Of course, you can go into the Google Play Store and also do a good old search in there. There's tons more smartwatch faces on there. Again, quite an eclectic selection. You can even fully embrace the LED style watch face if you wanted to do a bit of that. And on top of all that, you can also download the Mobvoi app, and that also has a watch face sensor that allows you to chuck loads more stuff onto your smartwatch. It's definitely quite an eclectic selection, but as you can see there, quite a few of them you do have to actually pay cash monies for. Or alternatively, you can set your own watch background as well. Maybe set it to a loved one, a small child, or a cat. Or alternatively, just your classic bit of anime action. Now to check your smartphone notifications, just swipe up at any point. You can then tap into any messages that excite and interest you. And as you can see there, you've got the option to delete or archive anything that's not actually as exciting as you'd hoped, or you can actually reply direct via the smartwatch too. If you swipe down, that's how you access the quick toggle. So for instance, you can quickly activate the likes of Google Pay to have full of NFC support here on the Ticwatch Pro 3 Ultra GPS. You've also got the likes of Do Not Disturb and Theatre mode. And all the other settings are buried away in here as well, which allow you to fully personalize and customize the Ticwatch Pro. If you swipe right, you've got all your Google shenanigans. You've got fast access to the Google Assistant just by tapping this little mic icon up top. Got a built-in microphone and speaker here on the Ticwatch. Is the weather going to continue to suck today?
Right now in Orpington, United Kingdom, it's 16 degrees with light showers.
You may want an umbrella is a bit of an understatement because I've already been absolutely shat on once. But you do actually get weather information direct through the Google feed, as well as calendar info, all that good stuff. And you can, of course, as usual, turn on voice detection for that assistant as well. I won't actually say the words because I'll be activating everyone's assistant back home. And then if you swipe this way, you've got access to, of course, those tiles, which you can fully set up, as I showed you before. Basically just widgets for your various apps. And speaking of your apps, it's a quick tap of this top button here that brings up the apps panel. Quite a lot of stuff packed on here to begin with, including all of the usual Mobvoi Tic apps. As you can see there, lots of exercise tracking. You've got the likes of Tic Zen to help you chill out. And then you've got the usual Google shenanigans, including calendars, alarms, timers, more health tracking, of course, obviously. The hand washing app, in case you still need help washing your hands after a global pandemic. And if you dive into the Ticwatch's settings, you can actually see what app this bottom button is a shortcut for. By default, it's Tic Exercise, which just allows you to, as you see there, track your various fitness shenanigans. You've got support for over 20 different types of exercise, all of the major stuff, as you can see there, swimming, jogging, cycling, and mountaineering. All of the exercises that I do my level best to avoid on a daily basis. And just using outdoor walking as an example, as you can see there, you can keep track of the distance covered, your current pace, how long you've been walking for. You do have full GPS support on here as well, which uses 5 separate global navigation satellite systems. And then at the end you get a big fat summary of everything you've been up to and whether it's actually been worthwhile. And all of the usual health stuff you get on smartwatches, it's all present and correct basically here on the Ticwatch Pro 3 Ultra GPS, including 24/7 heart rate monitoring and SpO2, the blood oxygen monitoring. You do need to turn on that 24-hour monitoring though, because otherwise, as you can see there, it is deactivated by default. And the Ticwatch Pro 3 Ultra GPS can even track your heart rhythm as well. And if it notices any abnormalities, it can give you a bit of a nudge, say, hey, maybe you might want to go to a doctor's and get that checked out. And one of the fresh new features here on the Ticwatch Pro 3 Ultra GPS is the mental fatigue tracking. So apparently if you've been wearing it for a while, it can come to learn exactly how knackered you are up top. And it can also monitor your daily energy levels as well, and just basically give you a bit of a heads up when you've been working a little bit too hard. Maybe it's time to go and lie on a beach somewhere and sip booze out of a coconut. So an impressive range of functionality overall. And then of course, if you want to download more apps, just dive on into the Play Store. You've got full Wi-Fi support here on the Ticwatch Pro 3 Ultra GPS. So you can actually download apps directly through the watch. You don't have to go via your smartphone. And you've got 8 gigs of storage here on the Ticwatch as well for all of your apps, and also media as well if you want to download songs and the like. As for the performance, well, the Ticwatch Pro 3 Ultra GPS is powered by Qualcomm's fresh new Snapdragon Wear 4100 Plus, as also found in the fresh new Fossil Gen 6 watch, and basically bugger all else. You've also got a gig of RAM on there as well, which is plenty for a smartwatch, and certainly so far the performance seems absolutely flawless. I noticed a couple of little stumbles when I was first setting up the watch and flicking around. I think that was just because it was downloading stuff in the background. Certainly now that it's had a couple of hours to sort of settle, it's been absolutely fine. So that right there, in a nutshell, is Mobvoi's fresh new Ticwatch Pro 3 Ultra GPS. I've completely lost count of how many times I've f***ed up that name during the shooting of this video, let me tell you. And you see, that seems like a solid rival to the likes of the Samsung Galaxy Watches, the Fossil Gen 6s, and of course the main selling point of this bad boy is that dual display design, which basically means that you should get a little bit of extra battery life compared with most of its rivals. So are you tempted? Certainly be great to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Please do poke, subscribe, and ding that notifications bell for more on the latest and greatest tech, and have yourselves a fan-bloody-tastic rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you!